This is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today we are going to do our summer pruning for the year on these monsters. Let's get busy. The thing with pruning trees is I know that a lot of people feel really intimidated with this process because you really feel like you don't know where to make the cut or how to make the cut. Are you going to kill your tree by doing it? And yet it's one of the most important things you could do if you want to have consistent and good fruit production. And so hopefully by seeing me make a lot of these cuts, you're going to feel emboldened to make those cuts as well. Trees are crazy resilient. This is the kind of stuff that happens in nature. Stuff gets blown down and trees want to grow. We're just helping to shape them in the direction and in the size that we want them to be. So they respond really well to pruning. Now, something you want to have when you're doing your pruning is a good set of pruning shears. I'll link to these Felco 8s below. Good set of pruning shears. When the blades are nice and sharp means that you're going to be creating very clean cuts, and that way you're not going to be creating jagged cuts that are going to allow disease or pests in a lot of those cuts. You're going to give the tree a good clean cut so that it's able to heal over and harden up. And so that's really important. You want a good set of pruning shears, especially if you've got a number of trees. Ultimately, look, just grab your shears, go out and make your cuts. So I asked the Busy Gardener community on YouTube, when do you prune your trees? Do you prune them in winter or in spring or in summer, or do you prune them multiple times a year? And over half of the people said that they prune during the winter. Maybe 30% said that they prune multiple times a year. Now, the beauty about a backyard orchard is that you can kind of do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to prune multiple times a year, you don't have to. You're going to be trading off a little bit of fruit production. You're going to be trading off maybe some aesthetics if you're pruning less than multiple times a year. The ideal times, there are two real main times that you want to prune that you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. One is winter, when you're doing all of that detailed pruning. I have a video of that where you're looking for dead and diseased branches, where you're looking for form and for shape. That's really important. The second is summer pruning. Summer pruning is where you're trying to bring down some of the height. You're trying to bring down the vigor and check all that. I mean, look how gigantic those crazy nectarines got. And so, and really you can do summer pruning a couple of times. What you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get rid of some of that boomy growth, and you're wanting to encourage additional, like smaller shoots and more, so a lot of that branching to happen. So ideally, you're going to be pruning at least a couple of times a year. Coming out and doing some detailed pruning at other times is totally okay too. But if you were going to do just two prunings, winter and summer, you could get away with that, and that would give you the most bang for your buck. Well, I've put this off way too long. We're already at the end of September. And so I'm going to do my summer pruning at the end of September. This could have easily been done in July or August. But I'm grateful that it cooled down. It's been in the 90s until seriously 2 days ago. It's going to be a high in the 60s today. So got my Felcos. Actually, I'm testing another kind of cheap pruner. We'll see how well that holds up. Now, some of the things that differ when you're doing summer pruning compared to when you're doing winter pruning, in addition to the difference between winter being all of the detail and summer being checking for height, you're not wanting to really open up the insides of the canopies just yet. And the reason for that when you're doing your summer pruning is because you want there to be a leaf cover so that sun isn't coming in and baking the inside of your tree. So even if you're doing an open vase pruning, you want to be able to come in and rather than do that detail and open up the centers, you really want to just focus on topping it off and cutting the sides down. So you're wanting the overall shape of the tree. That's what you're keeping in check with summer pruning. So I think a good place to start, why not start, should I just start gigantic on this huge nectarine? Oh, I feel a little intimidated by that. Let's start on something smaller. I'm going to get to that. I will get to that, but I want you to be able to see what's going on here, some of the concepts. Maybe we'll get started with these cherries here, this Royal Lee and Mini Royal cherries. Okay, now as you're doing this, one of the things you want to consider is balance. That's really what you're going for with this. So rather than just come in and chop one side, unless you need to, you want to go around the tree and walk around it and see where there are opportunities to create balance. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to bring down the height. What I want to do is, now this is not yet taller than I want to reach. That nectarine back there definitely is, but so I'm not worried about that. The reason I'm bringing down and checking some of the height is because I want to bring the branches down so that way they create more foliage, more branches, rather than this one continuing out. So as I'm bringing down height, even though this is not higher than I can reach, I'm wanting to encourage some more of that growth, that lateral growth, as opposed to just the long stringy growth. So as I'm coming down, and you always want to be looking for these buds that are facing out. Usually buds are right at the end of a leaf, and so you want to do that facing out. And so just by coming and checking some of this height, I'm encouraging some lateral growth as opposed to vertical growth. Again, we're not looking to clean out the middle. In the winter, I'm going to come in and I'm going to clear this middle area out, so that way stuff isn't growing in toward the center. But right now I want that canopy coverage so that way the wood beneath isn't getting burned. Even if a branch doesn't need to be cut off that much, oftentimes I'm just tipping it so that way that top will want to create some more branches. So you'll see here that there are a couple of you'll see that there are some buds here that this thing was wanting to continue to grow out. So I'm just tipping these things off so that way it's going to encourage. Now, you notice I've walked around this tree. This is already pretty balanced to begin with. Some of that is because of the pruning that I've done in the past, but not a whole lot of attention. It looks pretty balanced as I walk around it. Again, lots is still growing in toward the middle. Wintertime, I'm going to cut that out, but right now it's not a big deal. Okay. I mean, honestly, this is, what did that take? 2-3 minutes? 5 minutes? And I can walk around and tip some of these little branches if I want, but you don't have to do this detail pruning right now. This is okay to do in wintertime if you're just wanting to come through and make a quick, make some quick cuts just to check the height. That's what we're looking for right now. So I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Let's turn around and maybe we'll take a look at our mango. You might remember this mango when I did the video with Charles Malky from IV Organics. We painted this. There was some bark damage down here. We painted over it. Tree's responding. It looks healthy. It's putting out some new growth. And so what I'm wanting to do, again, with most of our stuff back here is we're wanting bushy trees. So we're just checking the height. So I'm just coming through here to see if there's anything that's out of balance with the tree on this particular tree, and also just wanting to encourage all of that springy growth. And so where I'm seeing any type of length, I'm just cutting it off because we want more branches. And always be looking outer facing. This one side here is a little taller than the other, so I'm going to kind of reduce some of the height over here. Just checking this one. See, that's all I'm taking off the top to encourage additional growth. Yeah, the rest of it, this is even just with those couple of cuts, I think we've accomplished on this tree what we want to do. Yeah, it looks really good. A lot better. So what are the main reasons that we prune during the summertime anyway? Why prune our trees to begin with? One major reason is because we want to keep the height and size of our trees in check. We want them no bigger than we're able to manage. We want to keep them to a manageable size. And that's going to be different for every person. For me, it means no higher than I can reach. Another reason is because we want to keep our trees in balance. We don't want one side of the tree to kind of get lopsided at the expense of another side of the tree. We want balance in our trees. Another reason is, and this is an interesting thing, ties in with thinning your fruit, is you want to bring those branches back so that way they're not as long and spindly, because just like holding a weight out here feels so much heavier. The same thing is true for branches with fruit. If you've got the fruit way out here, it wants to break the limb, as opposed to having that fruit really close. It's just like carrying something. And so what we want to do is we want to bring that in so that way the fruiting happens closer to the trunk and you end up with less breakage because of all this fruit being out there. So, I mean, there are other things on top of that. It brings on a lot of times new fruiting wood, some other things, but those are reasons why we are pruning and did prune today. So this Spice Z Nectar Plum is a great example of why you want to come through and you want to check the height on these trees. This thing was so overloaded with fruit that I had broken branches. The whole canopy is still kind of weighed down from what had happened. And so even though I pruned this so aggressively before, I realized that this height, until it has really strong structure beneath it, is not, it has to be checked really aggressively. So I'm gonna come through here again. I'm just gonna use these. I might almost need to go get my loppers to take care of some of the larger branches. And so even though we are definitely losing a lot of fruiting wood, that fruiting wood is gonna weigh the branches down significantly. So that making this one cut, this could have translated into maybe 20 fruit next year, and 20 fruit at the end of branches really creates a lot of leverage and wants to break those branches. So you could almost see the entire branch come up when I did that. And so I'm gonna prune this a whole lot more aggressively than I would, maybe another tree, because of how significantly it got beat up with breaking branches last time around. So you might notice that I'm kind of in the middle of the tree. This makes it easy to look in front of me and see what kind of is out of bounds too. So I'm being a little bit, I'm not pruning for as much detail right now. I'm not really looking at buds. I'm just trying to make some of the initial, treating it almost like a hedge cut. Here we have some broken, or some dead branches. If you notice a dead branch, just cut it out. All right, this is a really unique situation here. We've got this little Janus Cadota fig that is really got beat up because a branch fell on it. So it's really, really small, and it's also on the north side. So it's gonna get the least amount of sun, although we do get some as it's rising this way. We've got our Black Mission fig, which is gonna get shaded out first. And then we've got this Panache fig, which is just gigantic because it's getting the most sun. It might also be a more vigorous variety, I don't know. So what I need to do is come through here, and really we're looking for balance of the structure and balance of the individual trees. So this Panache needs to come way, way down to match at least the Black Mission. I'm gonna tip the Black Mission so that way it does more lateral shoots. We're gonna be looking for outward facing buds. So this Panache, let me figure out where I want my Black Mission to be. So it's gonna be kind of like the thing that guides what we do. Tipping some of these branches as well. So I might be sacrificing a little bit of fruit set on this because some of these tips have some fruit that is appearing, but I'm interested in the longevity and what we're going to do long term with these trees. Okay, can you see how that brought a lot more balance? Check some of the height. It's going to encourage some of the lateral growth, and that's what we're all about out here. This milky stuff that comes out, this kind of sap that comes out, a lot of people have a sensitivity to it. So don't, just be careful to not get that stuff on your fingers. I don't seem to be very sensitive to it, but does that mean I'm insensitive? Some might argue that. Anyway, so Black Mission looks like it's about right. So what I'm gonna do now is come through and make height cuts, big major height cuts to this Panache fig, to bring it down and create space for sunlight to hit this good Cadota and this Black Mission. Okay, so this grouping is done. Something you want to do as you're looking for balance is you do want to come and see if there's anything that's posing an actual problem. Even though we're not going to be doing a ton of detailed pruning in the summertime, if you notice one like this tree is coming in, crossing straight into this tree, and we don't want it to cause any sort of issue. So either I'm going to cut the entire branch off, or what I'll do is I'll find a little outer facing bud like I've got right here, and I'm going to cut right at it. So that way it's going to encourage this to now come out from the middle of the tree. Same thing going on with this situation here. Let's find one that's facing out over here. So now this is cleaned up, and this should push out this direction, and that one should push out this direction as well, out from the middle of the thing. So we don't do a ton of detailed pruning, but if you see some opportunity for it, feel free to do it too. It doesn't have to wait. All right, this is going to be comical because this tree is largely in balance. I did make one single pruning cut earlier in the season. So sometimes you come out and you find a tree that has something like this. What exactly I'm wanting to do is make it be a bit more bushy. And so this particular one, with that one single cut, look how much balance is brought to that tree. And it's going to start doing some lateral branching there. I may choose to tip some of these as well. Okay, 2 cuts and that tree's ready to go. Okay, I lied. As I step back, I feel like this could use one more cut just to take some of the extra vigor off of it. Okay, a lot more balance now. You could, if you want, you can tip this. All right, so I said 2 cuts, 4 cuts. Forgive me. This is the mother lode right here of pruning. Look at the giant nectarine behind me. I've got my pruning shears here, but I also brought these loppers because I have a feeling we're going to be encountering some that whose diameter is bigger than those pruning shears can easily do. So, especially this Arctic star just blew up. Look how huge it is. Just totally vigorous, incredible. So we need to check its height way, way down. Unlike the other trees that we have going on around here, this one actually is higher than I can reach. And so you're gonna see me making those pruning cuts. I'm gonna be reaching higher and then I'm gonna be cutting back down to those pruning, making my cuts right here. So this is gonna look different than the small apple trees and the figs that are and cherries that are about here. So this will be really instructive. Oh, here we go. Great example. See where you can economize your cuts. You notice here that we've got one branch we could have maybe cut here, another one we could have cut here, another one we could have cut here. But with just a single cut, I was able to remove so much of that foliage. So look for those opportunities to just, there's no perfect thing here. It's just doing stuff that's going to make it easier, a more manageable process, and making those individual cuts like that. One individual cut makes it so much easier than making all these little small minor cuts at the tips of them. Something you might notice here is that this is leaning out. That's the other thing, is when you're pruning, you want to be paying attention to what your landscaping looks like, or your kind of features, or, in this case, like in between these Asian pear and this nectarine, I want there to be a walk area. I want to be able to walk through without having this brushing up against me. So as I'm making a pruning decision, I'm going to come through and cut these way back, whereas I don't care if it comes out this way as much because there's a bit more room. So you're going to be making those types of pruning decisions as well. For example, when I come here, I've already started cutting some back, made some significant cuts, but you notice you don't have a very clear path through there. So I'm going to come and check some of this growth going in this direction right now. So you see how much more open this is, and it just took me about a minute or so to come through and check the growth that was coming. If you look behind me, you'll notice that this isn't perfect. I didn't get every single branch. I didn't get every single little thing that was going up. I'm gonna go through and do a whole lot more pruning during the winter time. But I was mainly trying to get rid of all of this stuff, all of this really strong wood, these very vigorous branches. The little wispy stuff, I'll just get that in the winter time when I can see all of the branches more easily. So that's looking a lot more balanced, boy, compared to when we first came out here to look at this. Yeah, although now I'm looking again here and I see that this is, remember we're talking about that being able to walk through. You see a glaring thing right here is kind of where I need to make a cut in order for it to be in line with everything else. Now, what a difference that makes, huh? Okay, so we're gonna go and prune my 4-in-1 pear, my Pluaries, Santa Rosa Plum, Emerald Drop Pluot, Flavor Grenade Pluot, Cotton Candy Aprium, and the Picatum, Bella Gold Picatum. So I'm just gonna make my way down the thing and start pruning that. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of The Busy Gardener, where we spend some time doing our summer pruning. Remember, there are two things that you want to focus on when you're doing summer pruning. You're wanting to control height and width, and you're wanting to prune for balance of the tree itself if you have one tree, or the grouping of trees if you've got them planted in a set. And so if you're doing both of those things consistently, your trees are going to respond. They're going to put out good, new quality wood. You're not going to run into some of those issues with giant branches falling down or the trees getting bigger than you're going to be able to manage. This is a great time to keep that stuff in check. And super important. And anyway, hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, would you take a second and do that? Hit the notification bell. I'd also love to hear your comments. Is there anything that you would have done differently, or things that have worked for you? Maybe put those there, or maybe some questions came up that I didn't cover. Put those in the comments. Love to hear from you guys and to connect with you that way. So whether you've got one tree in your orchard or 500, until next time, stay busy.